Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Community Report. I am Dari Ido. This edition of the program is focusing on making a change even from a small place. The core objectives of the National Youth Service Corps is to enable young Nigerians acquire the spirit of self-reliance by encouraging them to develop skills for self-employment. While at it, they also innovate, create change, and make credible track record. Some young Nigerians have used the Community Development Service of the NYSC to reach out to many communities in the past. That effort is still ongoing across the country. On this episode of the program, we spotlight some of these efforts by corps members. The National Youth Service Corps, established in 1973, is a one-year mandatory service for Nigerian graduates. The organization strives to raise the moral tone of young Nigerians by giving them opportunity to learn about high ideals of national achievement, social and cultural improvement. It also strives to be at the forefront of national development efforts, as well as serve as a profitable platform for important values of nationalism, patriotism, loyalty, and accountable leadership. The fire of passion for the country is expected to keep burning as these Nigerians embark on that one-year journey. The experiences, the bond, and the interconnectivity the scheme offers are also expected to be applied many years after the service. The National Youth Service Corps members must participate in orientation courses, primary assignment, community development service, the winding up, also known as the passing out. The NYSC camp is a community on its own, where corps members are introduced to the regimented lifestyle for the period of 3 weeks. During this period, there will be a lot of military parade and drills. There are lectures, social activities, and endurance trek to cap it all. Community Development Service is one of the 4 cardinal programs of the scheme. The CDS, as it is also called, allows a serving corps member to identify an issue of importance and attempt to solve the challenges, especially in local or indigent communities, with the goal of improving the economic, health, political, and socio-cultural conditions of the communities.
CDS, as it affects NYSC, is Community Development Service. And the idea of CDS is for the corps members to identify felt needs in the local community where they find themselves and ensure they impact positively in the local government, so that by the time they leave, there's something they have left behind that they have done to benefit the local community. That's what CDS is all about here. You know that NYSC is in all the 700 and the local governments in Nigeria, and to access those local governments it's very easy because every corps member is assigned to a particular local government, so it's easy to reach out to the local community. So everybody in Nigeria, everywhere, every hooks and corner in Nigeria has access to CDS activities through the corps members. We have what we call local government inspectors. They are all at the local governments. So what they do is when the corps members identify felt needs, they bring it up and for discussion. So we look at the ones that are very important. But most of the times, everything they think about is good. So you have all kinds of things coming up. Even things that is not available to the federal government to notice. They see it. And then we just narrow it down to things that are very, very priority. And that's what they go with. So it's been very wonderful. Rural dwellers, where core members approach companies for medications. So we just go to local communities where we've been to Badagry, we've been to Etiosa, we've been to, last week we were at Oregon, in the land of Oregon. And the idea is for us to, we have all the manpower already. We have doctors, nurses, pharmacists, all of that come to the local governments in the marketplace, because those women don't want to, they don't feel well, but they don't want to go to the hospital because of the small money they make. So we take this health initiative to them. While they are selling their markets, they come in, check their blood pressure, and when they have need for medications, they are prescribed immediately and they take care of themselves. Some of them don't even know that they have high sugar level. So when they conduct those tests in the marketplace, they now begin to watch what they eat. So it's all about the community, and that's what we stand for. If we're talking about how the structures we have, I'll still refer to the fact that we have local government offices in all. Let's narrow it down to Lagos State. We have local government offices in all the states, in all the local governments, with officers manning those local governments. So the idea is they ensure that the core members participate weekly in CDS activity. Then they also ensure that the core members bring in reports every week. So it's not just about 1 week thing, it's everything. And every time you have new ideas coming up, and we just follow it through. And there's also a process of feedback where we need to improve, or where we need to do some other things to help them achieve. If it means approaching the state governments on the state level now to ensure that those local communities are met, we do that. And it helps us in a lot of ways, yes. The truth of the matter is, while in the camp, we already psyched them up. And the truth is, you see these young children we're talking about, when you give them a mile, they go a whole long way. It's for you to sell the idea of giving something back to their community. You'll be surprised at what they come up with. There are some things you don't even think about, but it's all, they know that they have to give back. They know they have to leave something behind. So it's just for you to let them open their eyes to it, and you'll be surprised at where they go. So that's the truth. You don't even need to push them. They are the ones coming up to tell you, I want to do this, I want to do this. I have seen this, and it needs to be addressed. So
it's basically of, that CDS group. So I joined the CDS group, and
Oluwatumininu Kolawole is passionate about issues affecting women and girl child. So that's the focus of our project.
A lot of people think that, CDS is just, a place to while away time. Many of my colleagues as well, they don't believe that, CDS is such a big deal, but it is. It's a means of giving back. It's a means of, making sure that you give your own quota to society. And so when I joined the Gender Ambassador CDS, I told myself that, I have to do something. I have to, try and make an impact. I have to give back to the society. And so I embarked on the project under my CDS group, Gender Ambassadors, called, the project Adopt 50 Girls Back to School. So basically, what was the project about? In Lagos State today, education is free. I mean, tuition, that is the government schools, tuition is free, and which is a very, very great thing. And I applaud the Lagos State government for that. I mean, it's good. The access is already there. However, you find out that there's certain things such as the ancillary cost to schooling, like feeding, your uniforms, the school bags, the school shoes. Many people still struggle with that. I know it feels as if it's it's not so much of a big deal, but you find out that in some communities, in some environments in Lagos State, it's such a very big deal.
yeah, for instance, in the case of Tumininu, we have the Ministry of Education partner with her, because even on the day of the execution of that project, we had a special advisor to the state government in attendance, which is a very good thing. And then they've also made funds available to assist her, because she didn't use her money. You understand? That's how it's supposed to be. Then, apart from all those ones, we also have what we call HIRD, that's Health Initiative for.
They don't have the resources. They don't have what it takes, to give, their children this opportunity. So even though they have the access, but what to sustain the access is what is missing. And so I thought to myself, okay, let me embark on certain underserved communities within Lagos State. They included Ajegule, Mushin, Ilaje, Makoko, and Ilaje. Now those are the 5 communities that I focused on. And in those 5 communities, I took 10 girls each from those communities to make sure that they, they go to school. So you asked what the criteria was, in choosing these girls. So you find out that some of these girls, they are orphaned, in the sense that they don't have both father or mother. So they're probably staying with an aunt, or they're staying with, some relative. And they cannot afford to just, put them through having to get shoes, having to get bags. They already are burdened enough. Like, to even eat is a problem. So to then put the burden of a child, sending them to school, you also find out that some of these people in these communities, beyond the resources, they also believe that as a girl child, your ultimate aim is that you're going to be married and you're going to end up with some man. So why, bother so much on education? Like, a man will marry you ultimately. So, come and help me pound my trade, come and help me, hawk and do all of that. So people still have that mentality as well. So I focus on these areas, focus on orphan children and children who also have, maybe they're living with a single parent, maybe a single mom or a single dad, and are basically struggling through school. We also have girls from Makoko that have never been to school before. They don't know what a school looks like, and then we focused on them as well. So that basically was the project. So I kitted them rather with school bags, school shoes, 2 pairs of uniform, notebooks, a stationery case, amongst other things needed for school. So it's just a form of empowerment, that your parents don't have to worry about that. Since that's the issue, you already have access to the education. Since Lagos State government has given you that, you don't need to pay any fees. So all the other things that you need for your schooling, we can give it back to you. So. Service is so important. Like, a lot of it is needed, because I think one of the reasons why it's a core tenet of the NYSC is because they understand that there's so much the government can do, right? There's so much they can do. They cannot reach every area. But you as a person, right? That's why it's called community development service. You should be able to look to your community, right? Your immediate environment, and look for what they need. It doesn't have to be as, as big or as elaborate or as, magnificent. It can be just something little. But in your own way, you have to look for a way to give back. It's something I'm so grateful for, for the NYSC, because it was an eye-opener, right? Many people just, even from other people you're hearing, I beg CDS, leave CDS. But you find out that CDS is so important. It is so key. Because it's not just about you. They want you to realize that it is about your community. It's about those around you. Don't look to yourself alone. Like I said, it doesn't have to be so big. It doesn't have to be so great. It doesn't have to be so, just something little. Because they may never, the person you're helping may never be able to pay you back. But the greatest investment you can make in life is in human beings. Because you just never know what that one thing, that one seed, that one school bag, that's 100 naira, that, whatever it is. You never know how it will turn into a ripple effect and help that person. So when you want to make investment, make them in people, make them in your community. It leaves a long-lasting impression, in life, in the lives of the people that are going to be beneficiaries, and generally.
The school is just by the side of the health center where I was posted to.
Odede Joseph is working on community health as his development project.
When I was posted to Oshodi Solo local government, I was posted to Ilasa PHC, Primary Health Center. But there is an optometrist, and under Ilasa Primary Health Center, there are 7 health centers. So when I got there, the situation was so funny, because the doctors get to consult patients in the reception. There was no office, nothing. The patient to sit down, doctor also sit down, and it wasn't palatable at all. So that sprung my interest, and there was no facility for a good eye care service to render to the people. Just the instrument doctor will use, all this kind of. So I said, no, this is not good. How do these people manage? So most of them get to go as far as maybe the general hospital or even as far as last suite in Ikeja to get quality eye care. So that sprung my interest to actually build an eye clinic and furnish an eye clinic in the health center. So I met a couple of people. One of them turned up to we also saw an interest in the project, and he happened to be our sponsor, my sponsor. So he's very interested in the case and in the project. So we tend to build an eye clinic. So I spoke with a couple of people and some politicians do, and certainly you can always get good responses. But eventually I met a man who is one of the sponsors basically. So he's the chief medical director of an eye center. So he opted out. That's a very good idea. So and he actually does into community development, community health. So I said he loves that. We love to give that to the. We like to donate that to the community. So he happened to be the first sponsor. Then at the MOH of the health center, she decided to help out. She also decided to help out to discuss with other companies in Oshodi, basically, so that they could also. But all along, we have been waiting for the approvals from NYSC, which was just given this Monday. So I know all other ones would follow suit. The first step is the approval. Then after the approval, the laying of foundation. And before the laying of foundation, the molding of blocks. So which is in process now. Very soon, I'm looking at having the laying of foundation ceremony, that's the opening ceremony, maybe next week, by God's grace, or latest next 2 weeks. After which the building will commence. Before 6 months, before this December, by God's grace, the whole project should have been completed. Because now we're not talking about just building alone. We're talking about furnishing as well. And optometry equipment, they cost a lot. They cost up to millions. So it's a very huge project. So even the Oba of Oshodi is also going to be taken along. A lot of other companies will be taken along. So it's a very huge project, and by God's grace, God's help, and it will become so.
You two are special.
Amen.
You are the leaders of tomorrow.
Amen.
That's why we are fighting for you now.
My own advice, is that wherever you find yourself in, there is always something to be done in the community. Like, the community can never have it all. Even your community, there may not be water, there may be something. So you just to help out. That is community development service. A popular saying will say that don't think about what your country can do for you. Think about what you can do for your country. I don't know. So that's just what I've taken all along. Yes, sir.
The community projects are, but not limited to, donation of clothing and or food materials to orphanage homes, construction, rehabilitation of borehole in the host community, or service-free medical test and immunization, and many more.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you. Who were you?
Precious Eze is another young Nigerian who used a service period to impact different communities with a project she chose to work on.
The rising peace and security issues in Nigeria actually informed my choice of the project, especially with the killing of Deborah in Sokoto, the massacre in Owo, and even an incident here in Abuja. So I wanted to do something that I felt I could contribute to addressing the peace and security challenges in the country. So the first step I took to implementing the project was selecting 10 schools. I selected 10 schools and visited some of them for a needs assessment. During the visit, I realized that most of the schools had clubs, but none of them had peace clubs existing. After my inquiry, I was told that I had to write a letter to the Universal Basic Education Board if I were to establish the clubs in junior secondary schools, whereas if I were to establish in senior secondary schools, I had to write to the Secondary Education Board. I did exactly that. Unfortunately, my application to the Secondary Education Board was declined. And also, my application to the Universal Basic Education Board was this close to getting declined as well. But for my persistence and ability to convince the desk officers of my ability to undertake the project, then the near disapproval was eventually reversed, and I got the approval to establish the peace clubs in the schools. One event that would serve as a milestone during the waiting period for the approval was I was opportune to attend an event that had the United Nations Office the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes country director, and I reached out to him and spoke to him about the Peace Club for Change project, knowing fully well that the UNODC developed an Education for Justice module. The Education for Justice module was designed across boards, primary, secondary, and tertiary levels, to educate young people as regards peace and security, human rights, the rule of law. So I requested for a few copies of the Education for Justice module. He responded really nicely, but he expressed uncertainty as to my requests. I left the meeting very unexpected, but luckily enough, to my greatest surprise, 3 days after, I received an email asking me to come by to the UNODC office to pick up the requested copies. I was really excited as that was the first milestone. From the first day I visited the schools where I interacted with them, the principals were very excited about the idea, even though one major challenge that I faced in getting the teachers and students to attend the capacity building workshop for them was that they were complaining that there were hardly enough teachers. But even despite this challenge, the principals, pushed and made effort to make sure that teachers attended the workshop. And also the teachers, the reception from them has been very impressive. The feedback I've gotten since the conclusion of the workshop is great, and they are charged up to, start to commence club activities.
Unity, teamwork, fast and conscious.
I think what would be success indicators for us would be that the club activities continue, and that in the report and feedback from the teachers and students, that some of the delinquent activities, or how do I put it now? Because some of the teachers during the workshop mentioned that they were already experiencing some sort of, delinquent activities in the schools. So when there's a feedback that some of these activities are reducing, right, as a result of club activities, and also there is a clear indication from interaction with the students that they know more about the rule of law, they know more about peace, and they're able to tolerate each other more in class, then that would be an indicator for success. During the workshop, one of the students who attended the workshop, Khadija Nuhu from Junior Secondary School Nare, she's actually the senior prefect of our school. She said, this workshop has really taught me a lot, and with the knowledge I've gained, I'll be able to deal with the bullying in my school, So that's already a sign of success that we're recording. I think that community development projects embarked on by core members are really far-reaching. When I communicated or conversed with some of my fellow core members, they're doing a lot of massive work. Core members are passionate people, very committed people. There's so much that they've been doing. In the CDS groups, we have group CDSs. In my CDS group, we recently conducted a cervical cancer outreach at Tutako Market. We partnered with Medicaid Foundation. And then we did like a free cancer training, free cancer screening for the market women. And this is just one CDS. Across board, there's so much activities going on, so many core members impacting life in the different spheres of their domicile.
Community Development Service of the NYSC has been instrumental in driving change in local communities, making meaningful contributions in social, political, and economic transformations spearheaded by young Nigerians. That's our show for today, everyone. If you miss any part of it, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can also follow the conversation on our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Thank you very much for watching. I am Daridu. See you next time, and bye for now.